And we started to put all the elements that are needed. Again, you see on the left-hand side the USA system schools as a guide, and then as we need, we get information or cooperation through the items that are needed. And if you see the levels and the percentage of evaluation on each topic in biochemistry or physics or mathematics or engineering and English, they are quite addressing this idea of the STEM concept. As you see, the assessment should be project-based. So all the time, students are encouraged to present their own projects, and these projects are subject to assessment by specialists, by scientists, or even by some very well-known business people, just to give them this idea, and that the whole society is quite interested in what they are doing. And so all the time, either the technology assessment or the engineering assessment are done by specialists. You can see here, for instance, Bill Gates is contributing in the assessment in one of these STEM schools at USA. So this is a portfolio of the assessment in each grade. In terms of the IB exam, the final project, the presentation, knowledge that will demonstrate mastering knowledge, and in the digital portfolio and peer participation. This is distributed over grades 1, 2, and 3. So actually, what are we aiming at is that we are now establishing a STEM school, one at each governorate, as a role model for this type of school, with a good linkage to research centers, to universities, and also to industry, to prepare those needed input for our universities. The final objective is to have STEM education for all students in Egypt. In conclusion, I'd like to say that we started with diplomacy between Egypt and Japan, and also Egypt and USA, to address the needs of our future young generation students at secondary education and at universities. And I think this is what we need to do all the time, to exchange ideas, expand our networking, join forces to meet the needs and expectations of our young generations. This is the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you very much for your kind listening.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor, for your great speech.
Thank you.
I'm very happy to invite Mr. Mark Fox, and we have been talking about his presentation from yesterday, so we need just a few minutes until we connect his computer.
I just need the audio.
All right. So. It has a lot of multimedia, so we need
just
time.
while you're doing that, I wanted to make an introduction to Mark Fox. I know Mark Fox for more than 2 years. Actually, Mark Fox is the NASA rockets chief engineer, but now he's working on building a new generation of creative scientists and engineers, and he published several books, and he's training a lot of corporates and leaders how to think and create and establish new ideas. And I'm collaborating with him. Actually, we published two books together. So I welcome Mark Fox in our city of Istanbul.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay on the mic? Sounds good. See if the get the PC to work. No? Okay, don't have the audio on the PC. Keep turning it up. Okay, it's static, but I was gonna make you get up and dance and do that, but I won't. We let the dogs out. How many people have seen a dog drink water? How many people have seen a dog drink water? Every one of you have, right? Well, you think you have. Let's look at what you really see. All right, our audio's not working, guys. We had it working yesterday. Well, as he's working on the audio, what this video was showing you is an example of how a dog actually drinks water. She's making an assumption that the dog turns its tongue and makes a little bowl and laps it into its mouth. So this is the cameraman trying to demonstrate how a human might drink water out of the bowl. Try this again. I'm going to try this louder. We're going to break the technology.
Dog owners think they know everything about their dogs, but even drinking something than they would ever imagine if they would only see it in slow motion.
Can you guys hear that okay?
I asked dog trainer Brislin Benio to come by the lab so we could take some videos of her dog. Most people have a misconception about how dogs use their tongues to drink water. So before we do any tests, I want to ask you, what do you think it is?
I think that the dog puts their tongue in the water, the tongue forms a bowl, and that's how they lap it up.
What's a human look like when drinking like a dog? It looks like Matt's a better cameraman than a dog. Got it. My nose. Yeah. Of course, everything goes up my nose. He didn't drink out of the cup. He thought die of thirst or drown. So let's look at what your dog looks like when she drinks. So Taylor, whenever you're ready, do you want to take a drink of water? What do you see?
It seems as though she's throwing the water into her mouth.
I think it is, and it's almost exactly what you said, but with a twist.
It is. It seems like it's almost the reverse. Instead of being a bowl on the top of her mouth, on the top of her tongue, it seems like she's creating a bowl underneath. I've seen, at the shop we see dogs drink 1 million times a day, and I would have never been able to catch that.
The dog's reverse slurp just shows how surprising things can be when we change the lens of time, and how we can really see and understand our world in new ways.
Okay, I was teaching creative thinking, but had to do some critical thinking there. It's like, we had this working yesterday, what wasn't working? The only thing I could figure out was different is I had it plugged into that outlet instead of this one. So the computer's unplugged right now, so my battery starts to die, I'll have to shove it back in. But most people, how many people knew a dog drank water like that? Kind of backwards. Most people don't know that. What this is an example of dimensional change, and I'll start talking about the different lenses of TRIZ. There's 40 different lenses. This is one of them called dimensional change, and it's tools and techniques you can use to generate new ideas and for innovation and creativity. Okay, this is just one example of it. Another dimension. So what it means is you move from a 2D dimension to a 3D dimension, or back and forth, or somewhere in between, to make something more innovative and more creative. an IMAX theater, for example, what dimension is before 3D IMAXs came out, what dimension is an IMAX theater? It's not two-dimensional, and it's not three-dimensional, it's somewhere in between, right? The screen is larger at the top than it is at the bottom. The screen's curved, and it has kind of surround sound in the entertainment system. So it was a move from a normal two-dimensional theater to something that was much more interesting. Holograms, of course, are examples of 3D representations of products. In Disney World in Orlando, there is a town underneath the ground that's the same size as Disney World. It's another dimension where the park has been separated from what you can visually see so that characters can move around and get dressed and change costumes, and you never see that happening. You'll never see trash moved down the street at Disney World. So it's a dimensional change. Does that make sense? They've made an entire city under the actual park so that you can do activities and do things and separate it visually from what people would normally see. This is the CN Tower in Toronto, Canada. It's the biggest attraction there. It costs $50 to stand in line for 2 hours to go see a little glass thing cut out in the floor at 1,500 feet in the air. Okay? That's a dimensional change. You change it. We have this in our hotel as well, right? The glass on the floor. It's not at 1,500 feet. But this is a dimensional change that makes that building more attractive and makes it actually a tourist attraction. It's the #1 tourist attraction in Toronto, Canada, because they've made a dimensional change. That chocolate bar does not taste better than a normal flat chocolate bar. You just think that it does. And I've had women argue with me, no, that's my favorite chocolate, I'll always know the difference. No, you won't. You can do a taste test, you do not know the difference. It's because it's packaged differently. Dimensionally, it's three-dimensional that makes it look more expensive and like it ought to be better when it's not, okay? So they've applied three-dimensional change to design a chocolate bar. I was talking about this idea for years, and finally somebody stole it in Paradise Island, Bahamas, was how could you swim with the sharks without really swimming with the sharks? Well, create a tube that goes through the aquarium, so you're kind of with the sharks, but they can't bite you, right? You're not really up against them. So that's a dimensional change. This is an attraction at the Grand Canyon. It's a big horseshoe glass that goes out over the Grand Canyon, which allows you a complete dimensional change because you're standing 2,000 feet over the open Grand Canyon with glass underneath you. So these are all just some examples of innovation applying one of these lenses of TRIZ, and if you're lost about TRIZ yet, I'm going to explain it in a minute. Okay, I'm just trying to give you some examples to start with. Dimensional change is one of the 40 lenses. In my book, Da Vinci and the 40 Answers, I talk about the 40 lenses of TRIZ and the basics of creativity, and what I'm going to hit on today, I'm picking a handful of them to give you examples of what the power of these tools are. Okay? Henrik Altschuler, he's a Russian scientist in the 1950s, 1958. He was frustrated when he went to the library and could not find any books on innovation and creativity. Okay? He went and got finally a grant from the Russian Navy to study innovation, and him and his team looked at 300,000 technical patents trying to find patterns. What they found is they all fell into about 1,500 different problems, and the amazing thing out of those 300,000 patents is they were all solved, all these technical patents were solved by just 40 solutions. In the TRIZ community, it's called the 40 Principles of TRIZ, T-R-I-Z. It's a Russian acronym, T-R-I-Z, that roughly translates to the theory of inventive problem solving. Okay? The TRIZ community has now looked at 3 million patents, and they still fall in those 40 categories. So the logic is, if the history of innovation has followed these 40 principles or lenses, how can you use those lenses when you're looking at your particular problem, or you're trying to innovate, or you're trying to be creative? You can look through what I call a lens. I don't use the word principle, I use the word lens, because that's really what it is. I'm going to focus at an opportunity or a problem through this specific lens. What does R&D stand for? Research and development, but it also stands for rob and duplicate. Okay? So he stole his hairdo, Donald Trump. Stole the hairdo from him. And what you're going to find out is, Triz, the principles I'm going to talk guys get that? So I'm going from drying manure to I want to efficiently remove moisture. Who else in the world is removing moisture efficiently? And you find out the orange juice industry is. Because when they concentrate orange juice, you can't heat the orange juice to get the water off. It'll damage the orange juice. So what they do is you basically bubble a chemical through it, an effluent that draws the water, pulls it out, releases it to the atmosphere, and it cycles back through in the process. So you stole a technology, okay? You rob and duplicated it from the orange juice industry to apply it to drying manure. So that's TRIZ in its main concept, is how to go find solutions that somebody already has. Google patents. If you guys don't know this trick, Google patents, all the patents are on Google, you can search them. Literally, the proverbial better light bulb, I'm in a technology think tank in Texas, we're trying to design a better LED light bulb. And one of the students there had light bulb pieces spread everywhere. I'm like, what is it the main thing you're trying to do? He goes, well, the heat that's generated with these LED lights, you have to have a big aluminum heat sink to draw the heat away. And there's a lot of cost in this big metal aluminum heat sink. So he went to Google Patents and said, efficient ways to cool electronics. In less than a minute, we designed a better light bulb. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because the patent's pending on it, okay? You guys get that idea or concept? Is you go and borrow the idea from somebody else. Boeing senior engineer Don Mazengale made this comment. Several teams of engineers working for several years could not come up with a solution as elegant as the one we did with TRIZ in just a few weeks. So a lot of the major organizations are using TRIZ, starting to more and more.
You can lead a blonde to water, but you can't make a drink.
Turn up the audio, please.
All right, nobody move. She's looking over now. Right, she's looking at Nash.
Oh, God. All right, he may have the upper hand now, but wait until he opens his mouth. Remember you last time?
Oh, yes, that was in a history book.
Adam Smith needs revision. What are you talking about? We all go for the blonde. We block each other. Not a single one of us is going to get her. So then we go for her friends. But they will all give us the cold shoulder because nobody likes to be second choice. But what if no one goes for the blonde? We don't get in each other's way. And we don't insult the other girls. It's the only way we win. That's the only way we all get laid. Adam Smith said, the best result comes from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself, right? That's what he said. That's right. Incomplete. Incomplete. Okay? Because the best result would come from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself and the group. Ash, this is some way for you to get the blonde on your own. You can go to hell. Governing dynamics, gentlemen. Governing dynamics. Adam Smith. What's wrong with you?
There we go. Careful.
Thank you.
Okay, think about that. John Nash won the Nobel Prize in economic theory. Where did he R&D the idea from? He stole it from chasing girls in a bar. Okay? So think about that is take your inspiration from wherever you find it, no matter how ridiculous or far-fetched. Take your inspiration from wherever you find it, no matter how ridiculous or far-fetched. Got a Nobel Prize from thinking about a concept differently in a bar. Lens number 2 is called taking out. You guys, hopefully everyone gets the general concept of what I'm talking about with TRIZ. You got these 40 principles that have all been solved by 300,000, then 3 million patents. Originally, they were all based on technical patents. In the last 20 years, they've been applied to social issues, marketing, advertising, all kinds of things that aren't just technical. So I'm trying to give you a bunch of examples now of the different lenses, and I'm going to give you a wide range of technical stuff versus advertising and marketing. And don't be that guy that says, I work in the microchip industry and he didn't give me a microchip example, so therefore I got nothing out of it. Okay? I want you to start looking at these examples and make the analogy yourself. Think at a higher level of how what I'm showing you could be applied to your specific situation, just like orange juice and cow manure. Okay? Taking out is another one of the 40 lenses. The principle is you take something out, you remove something to make it better. Fiber optics in surgery. I don't want the machine that makes the light inside somebody's body. I just want the light. So what I've taken out with fiber optics is the equipment that generates the light source, and I put the light at the very end of a fiber optic. A central vacuum or remote generator is you don't want the vacuum and you don't want the generator noise, you want the power from it. So you put the generator further away from your office and run the power cord under the ground. Franchises have a lot of pros and cons, but what's been taken out of a franchise model to make it more efficient, like McDonald's or Burger King? They've taken out the startup risk. They've taken out of the marketing, right? They've done it for you. They've taken out a lot of things because it's a proven concept.
Airport?
Yes. Yes.
My name is Jim, and hi. If there's anything that you need, please.
I just love the smell of your limo, Jim.
Oh yeah, what's a new car?
I love that new car smell.
Yeah, I wish it was mine, but...
It smells so good, Jim. It's leather.
Yeah, leather. Great. But we're going to be at the airport in about 15 minutes. Looks like we're making good time. Listen to that there, huh? Nothing like a Vegas night, huh?
Yes. Well, look, just tell me at the polo match. It'll be 17 crumpets around about 2 o'clock, okay? Yes, I know. I know.
Okay, that was a commercial. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It was a whole series of commercials, and if that commercial offended you a little bit, good. That means you have an imagination still. Okay? There's no nudity shown in there. You don't know what she actually did. And it's by design that those commercials are taking out information to make it more interesting. Because what's implied is some illicit behavior, something sinful. But what's sinful for you may be different than what's for you. Because of that, it allows more of the audience to associate themselves being that person in the commercial. Does that make sense? By taking out information, you've made it more interesting and more engaging. Another note is there's a lot of controversy on whether to do these series of commercials. If you're going to do advertising or something creative, innovative in marketing or advertising, if it's going to move people to actually do something, you're going to polarize probably half the group. Half's going to like it, and half will probably hate it. If everyone's kind of neutral, you haven't done anything. It's not memorable. Okay, I'm going to make several comments to the professor we had yesterday, the last speaker from North American University. He was spot on with some of the mind things, that memory and how to get into long-term memory, and I'll give several examples to that. How many photographers do we have? How many photographers? Nobody in here has taken a picture but me. Okay, everyone has taken a picture, okay? There's a technique in photography called frame line magnetism, which is the frame line of the picture. I'm using magnetism to pull you in by taking out information. A picture will always be more interesting if there's less information in it. Example, next time you're doing your family photo on your vacation, take a picture of whatever you would normally take. As long as there's not a Grand Canyon between you and the object, walk twice as close to the object and take another picture. The second picture will always be better because information's been taken out. What information's been taken out here, you don't really know what's going on. You don't really know what's going on in that picture either, which makes it more interesting.
Black hot half cup of coffee, man.
Excuse me?
Can I get a black coffee?
Black coffee.
There we go.
Ready to go.
Video next, please.
What?
We got a video next, please.
English. Got it. How does that make you feel?
What is it, bollocks?
What? That's disturbing, Ozzy. Make yourself heard with the full QWERTY keyboard Samsung Propel.
So how many people know who Ozzy Osbourne is? Okay, he's a rock star in the U.S., and that commercial makes sense there and may not here because there isn't an anchor. The anchor in the U.S. is everyone knows who Ozzy is, and everyone knows he's done too many drugs, and he can't talk. Okay, so it's a funny commercial. What's been taken out is what he's actually saying, but people can relate to it because they know Ozzy Osbourne. Is everyone lost? Are you with me so far? Okay. Here's a technical example of taking out. Why was this such a popular product? What was taken out of it? The complexity was removed. This is the first electronic product that came out that was advanced that didn't require a manual to make it work. Nobody read the manual for this. Nobody. You picked it up and you got plus, minus on volume, fast forward, rewind. That's why it was so popular. Plus the quality of the music was awesome and it held a lot of songs. The simplicity, what was taken out here was to make it simpler and not let design creep get in there. You made it the opposite direction. You took a bunch of stuff out. I worked for iOmega at the time. We made an MP3 player that had like 190 features. Okay, it bombed. Okay, we didn't sell any of them. That's why this one was a huge hit. Switching gears now from lens. Railroad tracks in the United States are 4 feet 8 1/2 inches wide. The rails are 4 feet 8 1/2 inches wide. That's a very odd dimension, isn't it? Why would they be 4 feet 8 1/2 inches wide? Well, because we R&D'd it from England. That's what they did on their original trams. Where did England come up with that dimension? Excuse me? Yeah. There you go. She said horse carriages. Well, it started with the wheel ruts. That's the width of the wagon wheel ruts. So that's what they copied. Where did that come from? It came from chariots. It's the width of a chariot, 4 feet 8 1/2 inches wide. Why is it that dimension? Because that is the width of 2 horses' asses. Okay? On the space shuttle program, the solid rocket boosters, I was the chief engineer on the SRBs. The exit cone where the fire comes out of the rocket, the exit cone is 10 feet in diameter. Okay? When I was a young engineer, I was doing a program on a clean propellant to come up with a completely new propellant, and I was running a baseline computer program telling me the size of the nozzle, and it kept telling me the nozzle should be 12 feet, not 10. So I thought I was making a mistake, so I kept going back and running the program, and finally I found an old guy who at the time was about 45, and I said, I can't figure this out in this program. It keeps telling me it ought to be 12 feet, not 10. And he goes, you're right, it's supposed to be 12 feet, but it's 10 because it has to fit on a rail car. Why does it have to fit on a rail car? Because NASA told us it did. Okay? What Pat was saying yesterday about systems engineering, we didn't have any in those days.